Hello again from Biel in Switzerland. In round 3 of Biel Chess Festival Master Tournament, I played the young Russian player Mikhail Antipov. He is around 15 years old, rated close to 2500, so it is obvious that it is a talented young player that will show much more in the future. So of course I was very careful during the game. He only plays Najdorf, so I could prepare for this game, and I decided to play some sharp lines. The reason for this is probably that in my last tournament, Turkish League, I made too many draws, and I just decided before this tournament to play a bit sharper. So after bishop g5, he can play either e6 or knight bd7. Lately he's been playing this move more, and here, while white has several options, it is a very popular position today, and you can see it in many top games. Maybe bishop c4 is considered to be the critical line. It makes some sense because pawn is on e7 and this bishop is now attacking f7 maybe. White developed all his pieces, and it is strange that black can survive with such strategy. But even here black takes this pawn and goes queen a3. And well, this position is really interesting because white developed all his pieces, and after castle, for example, it really looks like a fantastic position for him. But it's probably playable for black as well. I cannot understand what is the secret of this position, why black is able to just neglect every opening principle and grab one pawn, play many moves with his queen and still survive. And well, it is strange for me, but I also analyzed this position and I couldn't find something special for white here. It is just a very interesting sharp position with mutual chances. So I decided to play another move, queen e2. It is a logical move in many Sicilian positions because I want to castle, and this queen on e2 sometimes is better placed than on d2 because white can jump knight d5 or knight f5, and well, if this e file opens, queen will be really good here, and white bishop is good enough on f1 even in such positions. White's normal plan is to push kingside pawns, so after f4, g4, h4 for example, this bishop might go to g2 or h3 later. And of course black has again many options here, and I'm not even sure. This is so new, so fresh position that I don't even know what is the best reaction for black. But Mikhail decided to play e6 and transpose to some more standard positions. After f4, queen c7, we reached by transposition another variation of bishop g5 Najdorf, and white usually castles here. Well, g4 is another interesting option, but I think king should castle quickly, and rook comes to very nice central position. And after b5, unfortunately white has to spend one move for a3 because lines where white jumps to d5 do not work in this setup. So white cannot play something like g4. If I remember correctly, black can just play b4, and well, I analyzed this position. It is far from easy, but if I remember well, after bishop e7, the point is that after rook e1, black can castle, I think. Well, I'm not really sure about these positions because it's been some time since I last looked at them. but I just remember that it is not good for white to play like this, and it has to spend some time for this move a3. It looks like it gives black some chance to attack on the queen side, maybe with rook b8 and b4, but somehow it's not very easy for black to manage to do this. And setup with bishop b7 is most common. It is a logical move, of course, and now it's even more difficult for black to make use of this a3. And white continues, of course, with g4. My idea is sometimes also to take bishop f6 and push g5. I'm generally happy if black takes gf6, but most of the time I want to play bishop h4 and then push g5. And main line here is bishop e7, which is the move that Antipov played, and I continued with bishop h4. It's possible to start with king b1. I don't really know if there must be something important about this move order, but the lines I looked start with bishop h4, and I was just remembering black should play h6 here. And well, I analyzed this position a bit more, and I decided it was quite interesting with mutual chances, and I decided to try it today. But I was surprised by move knight b6. So this is where my preparation finished. Knight b6 looks like a normal move, but I thought probably it was not one of the critical lines, and I should be able to get some advantage because black lets me push g5 too easily. I didn't spend too much time. Later I regretted that I didn't take more time here. I just decided if black let me, normally they play h6, so if black let me push this pawn, I decided to do it. Of course he goes to d7, and my initial idea here was to play bishop to e1. This is very good square for bishop. This move doesn't look very natural, but in such positions this is a very good square for the bishop, because somehow knight on c3 many times needs protection. Bishop is not in way of other pieces, and sometimes when this knight goes somewhere it can go to c3, b4 or a5. It's looking both on king side and queen side. It's just a very nice bishop, and white doesn't really need to have connected the rooks so much, so this is actually what I wanted to play. And finally I decided not to play this. Why? Probably because of d5 move. I got scared of this move. Now black is using the fact that my f4 pawn is unprotected, and I'm not sure what to do now. Of course e5 is one obvious move, but now it looks like black has possibilities on the queen side. At least he has sufficient play, I would say, and my play on the king side is much slower. I thought like that. So I didn't really like this position. And after d5 I was looking at some other things. Of course it's possible to play a move like bishop g2 or f5, or just take on d5 and get some crazy position where everything is hanging, but I was not sure if I wanted it. I didn't estimate that my chances were better in these complications. So I decided to play king b1. In a way, with this move I stopped d5. That's what I thought. Now I thought that d5 would really be impossible, because simply my pieces are too active and I can either take on d5 or just push f5 immediately. It looks terrible for black. So after king b1 I was thinking black would go some knight jump or something like this, then I would play bishop e1 and push h4, and I was very happy with such position. I was also worried a little about h6, but then I saw many possibilities connected with some sacrifices on e6. For example, one option is to take here, and after bishop takes h4, I can maybe take here, rook goes to g8. Now I already have 2 pawns and I have possibilities to play queen h5, sacrifice on b5 or e6, and this position looked really winning for me. So okay, I was optimistic, and I didn't know what black would do, and he found a very good move. I was hoping something like this would happen. Knight c4, bishop e1, and then my next move, let's say he plays rook c8, another normal logical looking move. I push h4. So rook c8, h4, and now I can later even put my rook to h3 to control even more my castle on the queen side, and really it seems like my position is much better here, because I will push h5 and g6 most probably, and black doesn't have easy play. He cannot push a or b pawns, there are no targets, everything is well protected, so I think this is not very good position, and young Mikhail really found the best move here. He played g6. He played it quickly, so I must say I was impressed, because I was not thinking about this move before he played, but after he played I realized this move was strong. Now he has several ideas. First of all, he might try to push e5 now, because I don't have knight f5 and move anymore. His second idea is to push h6, then in the future he will take on g5, he will force my pawn from f4 to take. I can choose to exchange bishops or not, probably I should. And then he gets e5 square for his knight, which is normally black's dream in Najdorf. So I wanted to play bishop e1, because I know this square is perfect for this bishop, but I was worried about e5. And now the problem is that my pawn on f4 is hanging, and I have to take on e5, which is something I don't want to do, because after he takes with his pawn, his bishop opens, and he can sometimes think about some sacrifice on a3 or knight c4 or b4 and things like that. Other problematic thing is that my pawn on g5 needs protection, so I cannot go to b3 with my knight. I have to go to f3. And I didn't know what to think about this position. Of course everything is solid, and I will continue with h4. But I was a little bit worried still that black will be able to create some play on the queen side. So did I have any other problems after bishop e1? I'm not sure. Maybe yes, maybe not. I decided to go bishop g3. What was my idea? Well, simply if he pushes e5, I want to be able to jump knight b3 immediately without taking and without opening his bishop from e7. So, and of course I want to push h4, and later I'm thinking about going with this bishop back to e1 and creating my dream position. But I was worried the most about his move knight c4. This was my main line, and now I was not sure what to do. First thing, I thought he would spend much time here, because I have a very interesting possibility to take on b5, and if he spends time, then probably I would not take on b5, because I thought it was too dangerous, and I would choose between moves queen e1 and bishop e1. And finally I was thinking to choose bishop e1, because he was spending too much time here, and I just thought bishop e1 would be good in this position. While he was thinking, I almost made this decision, because now if he pushes e5, I was somehow more happy about this position. I'm not really sure why, because it doesn't look like something special changed. I still have to take. Ah, yes, that's right. Now I can take the pawn on b5 again. Okay, I will first show the line after knight c4. What happens if I take the pawn on b5 with any of my knights? He has to take with his pawn. I take, and now if he moves his queen, I take queen c4 and my position is winning. He has to take this pawn, and I have two options now to take with, either pawn or knight. If I take with pawn, he goes queen b6, and now he wants, for example, to castle, or he wants to take rook a3, or just my king is too weak, one pawn is not enough for this. I was considering bishop f5, but bishop f2, but he has knight c5 move. And here I tried some more things. I was looking at moves like e5, but my rook on h1 is hanging and probably it's not good. Or queen c4, or bishop takes c5. I was looking at some things like this, but I understood this position was probably better for black, because he's very safe and just one pawn I have extra. This is nothing in such position. So I thought only chance was to take with the knight, and now black can either try to play crazy, push d5 and enter some complications. Maybe I go f5, I don't know, like this. Maybe I take on d5, or black can simply castle. And I'm a pawn up, but he will go rook f b8. Bishop maybe can go one day to f8 and g7, or he will just push d5. I don't know, it's very difficult to play such position. I simply think it's not good for white. So if he played knight c4, I wanted to play bishop e1. Now it looks like I lost one tempo by playing bishop g3, knight c4, bishop e1. But now my idea is to push h4, return with my knight to b3 if necessary, and play rook h3. And now it's not clear if he can play e5, because if he does, I'm not sure if I should take first or not. I have these options. Take, he takes, and now I take the pawn on b5. Again, for the same reason, he has to try knight a3. And I take with the pawn, I guess. And he goes queen b6. Well, still it looks very dangerous for me. Maybe I play bishop b4. Still it looks like it's very good position for black, but this time I'm not completely sure, because black cannot castle because of knight on d7. Well, I'm pretty sure I would avoid this position as well. So basically I was just scaring him a little, and I didn't have some special idea. After e5, maybe I would just take. Okay, maybe I can try to take immediately on b5 without opening his bishop. Knight a3. And probably I should take. If I take with the pawn, black will always have some activity. And if I take with knight, it's similar. I definitely must admit that it's always good for black to enter this position. So I would probably after e5 I would probably take, and after pawn takes I would just go knight b3, similar to what happened in the game. And but now knight b3 is not possible because pawn is hanging. I have to go knight f3. Knight f3, and I'm not sure. I think this position is good for black. I don't see anything wrong with his position. It's playable. White is also good with. Nothing special. Okay, instead he played rook c8, which is also a normal move. I don't have many better things to do and I didn't spend too much time. I just pushed h4. He wanted to prepare this knight c4 actually, because now there are no knight b5 possibilities. And I just played bishop e1. I know it is the normal move. And I was expecting his e5 now. Now I was really hoping he would just waste the move somehow and let me play something. Maybe I can even return just knight b3, rook h3 to consolidate my position, because I really wanted to play some position like that and I thought white would be better. But he didn't let me do that. He pushed e5. And now I have to take because my pawn is hanging. He took with the pawn. And I just quickly went to b3 because I wanted to have my king safer. Now when I think about the position, maybe it's possible also to go knight f3. Maybe my king is safe enough and pawn g5 needs protection so that I can push h5. But during the game I didn't think too much. I wanted to have my king really safe. And I played here. And I was now optimistic. I was thinking I can push sometimes h5, sacrifice my g5 pawn. Or I can play bishop h3, maybe, or sometimes jump knight to d5. But after he played knight b6, I started thinking and I realized that position was not simple at all, and I actually didn't find any reason for my position to be better after thinking for some more time. I decided not to push h5 because black simply takes bishop g5. This was a problem for me. And if I take, black has to take with this pawn, but I'm a pawn down and I continued a bit with queen g4. The black just plays queen e7, I thought. This bishop is protected. Now he wants to jump knight e3. And I didn't find some good things for myself here. So I decided not to give this pawn, and black always has some tricks with knight b2, knight a3, bishop a3. So I decided to go bishop h3 and chase his rook away from c8. And he probably has to go rook d8, which is a normal move, because otherwise I can think about knight d5. He could go rook b8. Dreaming about some attack on the b file, but his king is still in the center. If he castles, I push h5 and attack, so it's not so easy, and he made a good move. And now I was stuck here. I didn't know what to do. Black took care of all the problems and I didn't know how to continue. I can take rook d8, but he takes with the queen. Now h5 is very difficult to play. My king is safe, but somehow I cannot create any threats. I didn't know what to do here. I was thinking and I was not finding any constructive ideas. So finally I decided to play rook d3. Well, my idea is if black takes, I want to take with the pawn and chase his knight away from c4. And if he doesn't take, what is he going to play? It's not easy for him to improve his position. All his pieces are already on best squares. And the only way to improve position is to castle, I thought. And after castle, I was thinking that maybe it would be possible to push h5. Because now if black takes my rook on d3, I will take with the pawn and he will not have time to take g5. And if he takes my pawn on g5, it looked somehow quite dangerous. I take hg6 now. He can either take with h or f pawn. If he takes with h pawn, I thought I would always have a very dangerous attack on h5. And if he takes with f pawn, I can check on e6, and after he moves his king, well, I'm not really sure how to continue. Now I can put all my heavy pieces to h file, or rook g3 or rook h3, queen g2, queen h2. I didn't know how exactly. At some point my knight can jump to d5 and bishop can come to c3. I just saw some things like this, and I thought that I would maybe try to play like that. So in this position he didn't want to castle. I think he overestimated my attacking potential after the castle, or maybe I underestimated this attack. In any case, he played knight a4, which seemed like not a great move to me, because I didn't know how to continue, and now I got a clear idea how to continue. Now I can take his rook on d8. He cannot take with the queen because his knight on c4 is hanging, so after this he would just lose, okay, not a piece, but a very important pawn. So he has to take with the bishop. Okay, he was ready for that. Now I exchange knights on a4 as well, and I simply suggest this exchange. And if he takes, which happened in the game, I take with the bishop, and I was sure my position was better because my pawn structure on king side is good. He cannot, even in endgame, it's not easy for him to push some pawns, and he has some weaknesses on queen side for the endgame. Also, if he castles, sometimes h5 will be very dangerous. My bishop has very good square on c3, pawn on e5 is a bit weak, and all these things combined meant that I had significant advantage here. So I was pretty sure after knight d2 he would go knight d6. It looks dangerous as well, but well, it's at least still black has some trumps of his own, and I wanted to go bishop g3, attack the pawn on e5, and I was thinking black would go queen c5 to protect this pawn, and here I was thinking about queen h2 or knight f3. My first idea was knight f3 to attack one more time this pawn, and I saw some cute lines. For example, if black takes like this, I take bishop e5, he takes bishop f3, I take bishop d6, bishop e2, bishop c5, and now his position is probably lost because rook will come to e1 and his king is really stuck in a very bad position. So okay, but of course he can take e4 with a knight, and after I take bishop e5 he should castle. And although my bishop controls this diagonal, somehow it's not easy to create mating threats. So I was not so sure about this position. I thought it was probably better also. But after queen c5 I was trying to find some other ideas, and finally I found queen h2. Nice looking move. I'm attacking, and actually I'm winning this pawn on e5 now. And also sometimes there are some ideas with h5. So black should probably castle. After this I take, he has to take this pawn on e4, and I should probably exchange, and now I play rook e1 because black also wants to take bishop c2 maybe. So rook e1, I'm protecting my bishop on e5, and it doesn't look like an easy position actually for black, because my pawn structure is better. For any endgame it will be much easier for me to play. He will lose pawns quickly on the queen side, and he has some problems with this diagonal and mating threats on g7 and h8. So okay, this position is better for me in any case. But I was happy that he took on d2, and I recaptured with bishop, of course. And I was expecting him to castle, and I really don't know what I would have done. But he played queen c6. I was happy to see this move, but when I started thinking, I understood it was not so bad. My first idea was to go bishop c3. Now black cannot take the pawn on e4, of course, because after rook e1 I will take on e5 with rook, or even, yes, with rook because of castle, and my position is just winning. So I thought black would have to go bishop c7 to protect this pawn, and now of course I can play slowly and my position is better. I can just go bishop g2, push h5 and so on. But I was trying to find something better, and I looked at queen h2 move. Now again queen e4 is bad because of rook e1, and I think black is just lost after bishop e5 on the next move. But black should castle here, and it was not so easy now to continue. Okay, I can return with bishop to g2 and push h5 later. I'm better, but I didn't get what I was hoping for. So I started looking at other move here, h5. This seemed like the right move, the correct move, because black still cannot take the pawn on e4, because I just take, I play rook e1, bishop goes somewhere, and I take on e5. Black cannot cover with bishop, of course, because of bishop b4, so he goes king f8, and now it's even very nice to have this pawn on h5, so there can be some h6, so it looks like his position is lost. And after h5, black cannot take the pawn on e4. To take on h5, it's positionally a disaster. I can put my bishop on f5 and black's position is completely lost. He cannot do anything anymore. So I thought it would not be easy for him, but he would have to castle. And now it's not easy to create something immediately on the h file, I thought. If I take, I thought he would take with f-pawn. And I didn't see how to create some immediate threats. So here I was considering playing bishop b4, attacking his rook. And if he goes rook e8, then I can take on g6. Probably he has to take with f-pawn, and I play queen h2. This was my idea. Now it's very difficult for black to stop bishop e6, because his rook cannot go to e7, his queen cannot come to d7, and the only move that I saw for him was queen to c7. And here I was looking a bit at bishop d6, but to be honest, I stopped around here. After bishop d6, I saw black can move his queen to g7 or f7, and I was not really sure what was going on. Well, this position looked promising, but I noticed another possibility here for black. He can just take bishop g5 and give up an exchange and try to play with this position, where now his king is quite safe all of a sudden, and he will have two connected passed pawns. e4 is also a bit weak, so I didn't want to play this position. Although I think white should be better here too. So I was thinking more and more, and here I made a very important and very good decision. I spent 15 minutes here before seeing the correct move. Actually, I was considering also bishop b4 here. Again, black cannot take on e4, because after rook e1 he is completely losing. And bishop b4 looked like a really powerful move, because I want to go rook d1 and bishop d7, and black cannot play bishop e7 because I go rook d1. And after bishop b4, after bishop b4, bishop d7, queen d7, a takes b4, it's easily winning position. Black has many weaknesses on f7, h7, I have passed pawn, which is very important for side with queen. So I was not worried that black would be able to hold. But luckily for him, after bishop b4, he has this move, a5, the only move in this position. And here I couldn't find a winning idea for myself. I can of course move my bishop back to c3 and play better position. I considered also rook d1, but after a takes b4, bishop d7, black has too much material, and although this position might be playable, I will get this pawn as well. Black plays rook e8 and he has active pieces, and of course only black can win this position. So here somehow, after returning to bishop b4, I don't know, after really too much time, more than 10 minutes, I returned and I somehow, I cannot explain how, but I noticed that there was a move rook d1. It is a very difficult move to start analyzing, and after I started analyzing, I quickly understood this move was winning. But I always wanted to attack his king after he castles to push h5, and this rook was always good on h1. And now suddenly rook d1 is an excellent move. It is really counterintuitive move, and for me at least. For example, if he takes in line where he takes this pawn, now I simply go back with the rook. So he cannot take this pawn. And my idea is now to go bishop c3 or bishop b4, probably bishop b4 if he lets me. And it's just winning after bishop b4, because I have ideas like bishop d7. And now a5 is not working, for example, because I can just play bishop c3. Maybe bishop c3 he can castle. Okay, maybe I will win at least a pawn, but probably I have even better things. For example, maybe bishop takes a5, I don't know. Bishop takes and bishop d7. And queen b5 and white wins. So this is not possible. And what is he going to do? Bishop e7 is the only move that remains. It is very important that he cannot castle because of bishop b4, rook e8 and bishop d7. And he loses his rook. So no castle, black cannot simply wait. Only chance bishop e7. Now bishop c3 is also winning some material probably, but bishop b4 is much stronger. And now we already mentioned what happens after he takes bishop b4. It is lost position for him. And he found the only other move in the position, bishop c8. I will just mention what happens after queen takes e4. Well, there might be other winning plans here. The move I saw was queen d2. Okay, black's position looks really terrible now. King in the center and everything hanging. But after queen d2, he simply doesn't have any way to protect his king. My idea is to exchange on e7, then queen d6 and queen d8 checkmate. And there's nothing black can do here. For example, if he goes here, I can just exchange and play rook e1. And I win a piece. So after bishop b4, he found the only move again, bishop c8. And here I had really much time, and maybe I made a mistake here. I saw very quickly two winning ideas. One was to take on c8, then take here, then play queen f2. I want to go queen f6 or queen a7. If he plays queen e6, I will play probably queen c5. So this looked winning. The only possibility for him that I saw was rook e8. And after queen f6, king f8, I can take this pawn with check. Then I can probably take another pawn on h7, or I can choose to do something different. Of course it's winning. I saw even I can play something like queen d4, and he has to go back with his king. Then I can take another pawn. I'm 2 pawns up. But I thought there would still be some fight, because his king will go to safe place and then he will have rook and queen to play. Okay, position is lost, but I couldn't finish him. So I started to think about other moves here, and I saw a nice move, queen h2. Now I simply want to take queen e5, and he cannot protect this pawn with any of his pieces, because all his pieces are already doing something. And one of the lines I saw was bishop h3, queen takes e5, attacking rook and threatening checkmate. He has to castle. I take queen e7, I want to take queen f8. If rook goes any other place, I will go rook d8. I mean, my next move is in any case rook d8. He cannot take this rook, and it's just hopeless. I win here. I saw this line, but I didn't see a refutation. I just thought maybe there are unnecessary complications here, and maybe I should play safer and more normal, because I had around 20 minutes, and I thought, well, I shouldn't lose 15 minutes to check all possibilities here and then suddenly see some move where I don't win so easily, and who knows, maybe there will be problems. So I decided to play safely, and maybe this was my mistake, because okay, I'm sure position is winning, but after queen f2, rook e8, okay, he found the only move, rook e8. For example, if he plays queen e6, I go queen c5, king e8, and for example rook d6. This is really terrible. And queen c6 is another normal looking move. Here I saw two ways for myself. One way was to play rook f1 and force his rook to go to f8 to block way for king, then check on a7. And how to continue here I was not sure, maybe rook f6, and there should be some checkmate here. And other way that I saw was to play queen a7, king f8, check on d8. Now I see I have check on b8 as well. This is what I missed. This is better. Take on e5 and then rook d8 and win. But during the game I saw this check, king g7, just the exchange, and queen takes f7, and I thought it would be easily winning, but still I would check later what to do. So in this position he played the best move, rook e8. I checked on f6, king f8, I checked on h6, grabbed this pawn, then I checked one more time, king e7. Now it was possible to take pawn on h7, I thought. I didn't see anything too wrong with this, but somehow my queen is out of play, and maybe he can try to do something with this time that he has now. So I didn't want to go there. I decided to just play queen g7. I'm pawn up. But he has more weaknesses like h7, a6, a4, and I have active pieces. His king is in the center, and also I calculated some lines. I saw if he plays queen e6, I can go rook d5 with rook e5 idea, which is not easy to stop. And the only try I saw for him was rook d8 here. And now I thought it was possible to play queen f6, because there is a small trap now. If I go rook e5. His queen is pinned, but it still controls a2. So I wanted to play queen f6. He has to take. I take. He goes king e8. I exchange, and now I push b4. Well, I was not sure about this, of course. It needs to be checked. But my preliminary calculations showed that white was winning here. Black doesn't have time to collect the pawn on f6, and if he pushes his h and g pawns, I will just come closer with my king and win the game. So for example, king d7, I play c4, king e6, I probably push b5, now he has to go back, I start coming with my king, but after e5 he cannot take on b5 because of e6, and I win. So this pawn endgame is probably winning. Of course I would have to check carefully. Sometimes there are some surprises in similar positions, and I remember drawing a game when I calculated a pawn endgame incorrectly in last year's Olympiad with Croatian Grandmaster Ivan Šarić. So here I also looked at this move, the move that he played, queen c4, and I understood that rook d4 was really strong. I don't care about this check on f1 because I just moved my king, and now I simply want to collect the pawn on a4. My king is very safe, my king from g7 is protecting b2, and I can always easily defend from some checks. Moreover, it is not clear how black will check my king at all, and there are always checks on f6, e5 and so on. So I was confident that this position was easily winning, and Mikhail made a mistake here. He played rook c8. Okay, he didn't have too much time, and I think anyway his position is easily lost. So after queen e5 check he resigned, because after king f8 he just loses his rook. Okay, I'm quite happy with today's game. I think I played well. I played a very sharp new opening against a very young player, which is it takes some courage, because kids today they work a lot, they memorize a lot of openings, and I think my opening choice was good, and I'm happy that I managed to play a good game in my first game in this line. I should also thank to Barashesin, who showed me some ideas in this position. Without these ideas, probably it would have been much more difficult to play.